We had extra space in our house. So my parents rented out one of the rooms to this lady they knew. She was an addict. I of course didn't know this at the time. I'm not even sure my parents knew. When I was like 4 or 5, my dad was talking about this lady, how he hadn't seen her in days. I told my dad I saw her and she was in her room, sleeping on the floor. Years later when I kind of remembered the incident and asked my dad about it, he said I walked him into the room to show him where she was, tippy-toed and finger on my mouth, telling him to be quiet, so she can finish her nap. I put the stuffed dog I usually slept with next to her. She had overdosed and died. I guess my dad had looked in her room at some point for her, but she was on the floor on the other side of the bed which couldn't be seen from the bedroom door. I knew I wasn't supposed to go in her room, but I sometimes did because it was a great place for hide and seek. Anyway, I guess my dad handled it in a way where I wasn't scared or anything, told me I was right, that she was just sleeping, and then a few days later somehow explained why she wasn't there anymore. And why my dad got rid of that particular stuffed animal. Kids are so innocent. When I was 10, I was given some money to go to gas station to get some soda and candy for me and my mom. When I was walking to the store, a Mexican in an old car came driving real slow. He asked me if I wanted a ride. I said oh yes. He starts asking me about school and stuff starts getting weird. It smells awful in his car. Later on I realized it was black velvet, so we are at a stoplight across from the gas station. I bolt. I run to the gas station and started jumping on the tube to make the bell go off. An old woman came out and threatened to beat me, until she realized the Mexican was staring at me from his car. Well, she yells some choice expletives at the Mexican, and tell me to go inside. Old woman calls my mom and she told me to walk home and don't drop our sodas. I could have been kidnapped if not for the surly old racist. We had a house up in Maine that was built in the 1920s. But some guy who eventually went off to fight in World War II sold the house in the 60s to my family. We've had it ever since. When I was a kid, my brother and I slept in a small room beneath the attic. It was more of a cottage than a house. Well, I always noticed these weird hinges on the wall, even though there was no door or window, it was just a wall. Keep in mind my mom and her cousins used to come up in the 70s, before I was even born. So I was the first person who noticed these hinges. I went back to the house for the first time a few years ago when I was 18. And I saw the hinges and asked my uncle about it. He said he never noticed it, and when we investigated, we realized there was a hollow space in the wall. We wrenched it open, and inside there was a fully loaded shotgun, and a list of names on old yellow paper. I was appalled when I found our neighbor on the top of the list. I had been sleeping in a room with a shotgun and a hit list for my entire childhood.